All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Sports Talk on Atlantic Television Network. 31st of December. It is, it comes with a lot of ambivalent feeling, mixed, because some will be having some beautiful reflection, whereas others will be thinking of what next for 2025. That's basically what is happening in the psychology and emotions of a lot of humans. But here in the studio, guess what? We are in for sports this morning, and talking about, an introspect of all that has transpired is basically what we'll take a look at, on the show today. I'm not going to do this alone. I have Mike, the main man, joining me live in the studio, and of course, Mike. It's beautiful to have you here in the studios.
All right, thank you so much. It's a privilege being here talking sports. I'm excited being here. A whole lot has happened in Nigerian sports and sports generally in 2024. I think if you ask me, we must have taken one or two steps forward, as much as you feel that there are a lot of things to be done to ensure that we do better this year. Well, we have a whole lot to talk about today. And I'm really excited to be here.
Very excited, and I can tell you for sure that a lot has transpired in 2024, and of course we cannot fail to look at it one after the other. But first off, let's move away from the razzmatazz, around the ESMA, the Utah period, and let's talk about one British, man who is a boxer, and not many would want to affiliate themselves to him. Anthony Joshua is the one I'm talking about because of his recent loss to, the bar. But somehow he's in Nigeria and he's moving around. He's visited his hometown, Shagamu, and of course paid a visit to the Ogun State Governor Prince Dapo Abiodun. And during that recent visit, it was a wonderful display of cultural excellence, and the Lord prostrated and fully greeted, more like the old good days. But let's talk about not just this Utah period. A lot of people come back home to look at where I'm coming from. Let me pay homage. I mean, that joy that comes with visiting your home base, visiting where you come from. It looks like it's a normal culture everywhere.
Yeah, it is a normal culture, even though we are seeing more of it this year. I think I saw a lot of footballers who had their breaks this time around coming back to see their friends and their families and see the little way they can assist this festive period. A little way that can help people, especially in Africa. For those of them who even reside in Europe, find a way to come and help those ones in Africa to see health. I think it's a welcome development. As much as it's a tradition, a lot of persons are looking into it and seeing how they affect people positively, see how they want to set up some certain things that can help people grow. I think I saw the other time Ademola Lookman giving, I think, lots of tricycles to Nigerians. Even though he's still playing, he still finds a way to, reflect himself in Nigeria. This man, I think Osime, was in Nigeria the other time, and then he did one or two things for his people and his friends, and it's a beautiful thing for a lot of these people who fly, that trade abroad. For Anthony Joshua coming back to see, I'm sure he's not just coming back to see, I think he's also coming back to see how he can help people, and see how he can help these Africans, see how they can stand on their feet again.
And that takes me, I mean, a lot of people also feel that they do not have enough. At what point do you think that giving back to the society, is necessary? Is it just about during your festive period like this, or it should be a lifestyle?
I think the festive period is a perfect time to do that, in as much as I think
because
it's
they have normal breaks too.
Yeah, exactly. In as much as I think it's a lifestyle, it should be a lifestyle for every single time you feel the need to want to help people. I mean, that's what life is all about. you just find a way to come back. But I think this is the perfect time. It's a festive period. It's a season of giving.
Okay.
So it's a perfect time to express this kind of gesture, from these people. And it was really beautiful. Trust me, it touches my mind my heart whenever I see these things happen. They really come down to see, how can I help these people? How can I use my influence? How can I use my position? How can I use the money I have to help a lot of persons grow? It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. And away from that, let's take a look at sports generally in Nigeria before we go outside the shores of our country. You've been following sports for some time now. Take a look at the activity of sports generally. We had our good turns and bad turns last year. If I remember vividly, we went
last year?
No, last year,
okay.
2023. Went to the Commonwealth Games, did so in the Commonwealth Games, came back. This year, we went to the Olympics, had a very poor outing. Amidst, in fact, we defied our expectation. Defied because a lot of us expected that the likes of Emotion, the likes of Sebrume, the big names will be able to at least get us one medal. It doesn't matter the color of medal here, but none came by. Even when they spent 12 billion, to ensure that all the activities of the Olympians were intact. But that was not seen. Now let's take a look at sport generally. Before, we used to have what we call the sports ministry taking charge of sports. Now we have the National Sports Commission. We've created the sports ministry just to ensure that we reignite sports. So, do you think in your assessment that we have fared very well in 2024 as compared to 2023? How will you rate our strives so far?
Funnily enough, I wouldn't just stop at we have failed. I think we have been failing.
Okay.
To do what is needful, especially when it comes to sports. In terms like looking into Olympics, it is a long-term project. It is not something you want to start 1 year preparing for the next year or 4 years project. It is a long-term project. It's not an idea of changing names. The problem there is how long, what is the vision of 2050, 2030? How are we starting up from there? What do we want to do now? That's the idea. That's what we should be looking at. It's not about the money we put in. It's about the long-term project, the structure we have put on ground, the systems that we have strategized in ensuring that we get to that top in a few years to come. We are not there. There are a lot of persons who would want to go for the next Olympics. They have been preparing for years.
That's correct.
They have been preparing for years. So what have we been doing? What are our plans? I think that's what we should look at. We should look at a long-term goal, a long-term project to ensure that we live up to expectation. If not, we'll keep on doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That doesn't happen. I mean, this same pattern was the pattern we used years ago. What's the difference? Changing names? It doesn't work that way. I really feel what we should do is look at the long-term project, see what we can do, put in money into the appropriate quarters to see how we can look at the future of tomorrow in Nigerian sports. And trust me, a lot of things will change.
Now, to be specific, when you think about the future, we'll take a look at a lot. We have peculiar and unique challenges as compared to other climes. One of such is we'll talk about the environment we come from. We have abundant talent. So talent should not be an issue, okay? But then we have infrastructural deficit. Just like we have infrastructural deficit across the country, social amenities dilapidated and all that. We also have same in Nigeria in terms of sports. Take for example, in Lagos, look at sporting activities, facilities here and there. River State, we have them. Do we even have, the manpower resource, the organize, or the institutions to push this? So, while we have institutional problems and we have a problem of infrastructural deficit, so we're looking at how can we solve this area, because if you have a court where people easily can access to train, talent in the street will come in to train. If you have institutions that can plan out programs and activities, strategize to bring these talents, it's blend. So it looks like we are failing institutionally, and we're also failing because the government do not prioritize sports. So what is the way forward? I
think the way forward is, first things first, sports is a sector.
True.
We cannot generalize it to every sector. So we should focus on sports sector, and it can be different. Now, you made mention that a lot of institutions, a lot of sectors are still going through the same challenge that sport is going through. we can make that a difference. We can look at other organizations outside this country, look at how they run their things. I have seen institutions, I've seen sectors from outside the country come and develop their institution here in Nigeria, and you see it thrive. What are they doing differently? The idea is excellence. Excellence is that every little thing you do is as simple as how you move this thing from here to the excellence in it. So every single step you take, there should be excellence. There should be no mediocrity. There should be no atom of laxity. There should be every atom of intentionality to ensure that whatever you want to do grows. So I think excellence, this is a general thing though, but if in sport, if we want our sports to grow, intentionality in whatever we want to do, whatever accountability as well, transparency, sincerity, it's a problem we have generally. And then if we start looking at those issues, if we really want to change, someone said something the other day, if you want something to change, you change it. If you're tired of a particular thing, you want it to change, together you can change it. But if you keep lying, doing one or two things, ensuring that there's a plan that you really don't want it to change. So if you want a particular sector to move from this point to another, you know exactly what to do. If you want your family to move from one point to another, you know exactly what to do. So if you want a sector to move from one point to another, you put things in ground to ensure that this thing works.
Now, as compared to the Western clients, that sports sector is driven mostly by the private sector. Okay, so but here in Nigeria precisely, ours is driven by the government. So it is more like it is politics in quote, because it is who they want, they give these positions, and it is the whims and caprices of those in position that is driven. So I ask, I mean, how do we move from this level? Like in English Premier League, for example, take a look at what is happening. Clubs are owned by private sectors, and that's why the government only gives them an enabling environment to soar. And that's why I think that what role do you think that the government can create to allow the boat to function without one having dominance over the other?
You still said it yourself, it falls back to the government. Now you're saying private sector has to come in. Now you're asking, what role should the government? It still falls back to what the government wants. If the government gives room for private investors to come in, it is based on the government. So it's unfortunate, we are in a very unfortunate situation where the government is in charge of almost everything that's to do with our sports, and it's really, really poor. If actually the government realizes that, okay, we cannot run the sports as excellent as we should, let's give room for private investors.
Do they even know that they can't run it?
Obviously, they are not doing it, but they can't tell themselves the truth. So yes, they might know, but then again, I mean, there are, other incentive that comes to them that they feel they should get access to. But the problem here is, how will the government change their mindset? It is bold, and that's how unfortunate it is now. Because you said it is the government who will give room for private investors. If they don't take that decision, how would that happen?
And then another area is talent development. Do you think we're very intentional about developing talent?
No, we're not.
Apart from the big ones we've known recent time, I mean, the likes of we can name stars that young talents, how they are being churned out, in the Western climate. And I ask myself, we're tired of hearing the likes of Aruna Quadri in tennis. We're tired of hearing the likes of Emotion. Emotion should have a replacement now, or have replacements, because we have abundant talent here. Every 2 years, we go for national youth games, in Delta State. Those talents, after those games, what are they doing? Where are they? So I'm just looking at the process of discovering talent, nurturing them, and giving them the podium for global excellence.
So, if you want to do something, you have a plan.
Okay.
If you want to, maybe for 2025, for example, possibly you want to send your kids to school, send your kids abroad, you know how to go about it. You set up plans on how you want to get the money, how you want to put things in place. You already drawn out your strategy for as little as your family. This is a sector. What plans have you put on ground? What is the strategy for developing young talents? The only thing I can have in mind that has been painted over time is going back to the grassroots in secondary school and training our kids. I mean, that is the only plan that has been said. The question is, what plans do we have? What little institutions have we set aside to train young ones for free? They don't need to pay money for it. But sometimes you hear academy, you have to pay huge amount of money to enroll your kids into academies to train them into become the future of Nigeria. So the question we keep asking ourselves is, what plans do the government have? What plan have they set in place in ensuring that we build people from their grassroots? Whether there's always been, let's go back to our primary school back then, where we do the, what's it called, the inter-house sports in secondary school, in primary school. Is that the only plan we have? And besides, we're not even going and being dedicated to that. So the plan is, the problem has always been, there is no plan on ground yet, no proper plan on ground, no impressive plan on ground. The plan has to be impressive.
That's correct.
No impressive plan on ground to say, okay, this is exactly how we want to go about setting up children, young ones, for tomorrow. The plan hasn't been there. I said that earlier. For us to actually plan for the next Olympics, we have to start from years back. I'm sure we haven't even started. So
the next Olympic will be staged in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles.
In 2028.
In 2028. And trust me, we shouldn't even start now. It should be something we started like 5 years ago.
Nah.
Do you understand? So this all boils down to plan, strategies, the systems you have put on ground to help build up these little ones. Go get them from their schools, get them from wherever they are, give them free. A lot of persons have been finding it very difficult to get into institutions, but they are talented. Go get those talents, hunt for them. There should be scouts everywhere in Nigeria, in different places in Nigeria, scouting young people, scouting talents, ensuring that they are brought into a place where they can groom them and become excellent. I mean, that's a problem we've always had in Nigeria. The problem is, when do we want to start implementing these things in Nigeria?
I think, like you said rightly, it looks like our problem is more of implementation than formulation of policies. Because when policies are formed, we are very good in formulation of policies. Our blueprints can be very, very good. I mean, strategically, we have the...
I feel we are very stereotyped when it comes to our formulation of policies.
Okay.
I think we're very stereotyped. I think we should think outside the box most times. We shouldn't do things that suits other people's environment.
Okay.
Sometimes we look at other people and feel that whatever they do there will affect us right here, knowing that our environment is totally different from other environments. So sometimes we need to think outside the box to do things that suits us here, that can help us. We can formulate, and yeah, you said that it might be true, but I don't think strategies can find a way to redirect your mindset to ensure that that thing works.
Exactly.
Because when you're formulating your policies, there's a way you formulate it in a way that you cannot even do anything outside that policy you have formulated.
That's correct. Away from that, another area to look at is the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Evidently, we saw how far they have failed, and a lot of persons, there's this argument, now that we have qualified for AFCON, should we continue with a foreign coach or a home-based coach? Now, we all have seen the advantage and disadvantage. The last was Joseph Peseiro led up to the finals of the AFCON, were unable to win it. He was, he resigned, and Guavo came in. Guavo has qualified us, even if we are qualified us to AFCON at the detriment of our World Cup. And so, a lot of persons are still crying out. I mean, this guy cannot do it. In Cameroon, he led us from the group stages beautifully, and then against the worst Tunisian side ever in the last 2 decades. We lost, and that argument has always been at the forefront of our football discourse in Nigeria. What do you think? Do you think the Super Eagles still has what it takes? I mean, we lost our last game in 2024 at home. So, as part of revamping the system, what would be your take on the Super Eagles, and how far can we go next year?
Well, it's still unfortunate that everything will still boil down to the management, but let's look at the talents that we have and the coaches that we have. You talked about Eguavo. Eguavo, as much as people would say he is a good coach, I think there's a level at which him being good can be leveled. You know, can be... Eguavo can take us to the world-class stage. He can only, basically, even obviously, as we can see, I mean, he can only perform at the level where he's performing at the moment. Qualifying us for the African Cup of Nations, getting us to possibly quarterfinals or semifinals. There's this excellence that needs to be brought out of our players. And I personally think Eguavo can take us there. I don't think he has what it takes. I don't think he has the technicalities to bring out the best of the stars that we have a bunch of players in the team. Lots of quality players in the team. Dele Bashir the other day was awesome in his team. Lukman, world best already. We have already African Cup of Nations, African's best
player.
rather. The last year was Victor Osimhen. That's how much of stars we have in the Super Eagles. But we need a coach that can bring out the world class in those players. And I don't think Ekwawa can do that. It's obvious that he can't do that, except we want to manage. And that's what we've been doing. It's unfortunate that sometimes we have so many parameters to bring in a coach. We're not actually looking for the best. We're looking for what is suitable for the management. And that has always been the problem. So what is suitable for the management might not be suitable for the players and for the team. It has always been an issue for us. So we want to go far. We're talking about the World Cup. That is always our desire. We qualify for African Cup of Nations, and we do not qualify for the World Cup. Is a slap to Nigerian face. It's
a slap to Nigeria. Of course, we hope that will be done. We cannot miss consecutive, disqualification from the World Cup. That would be a doom for the country. Missing out in 2026 World Cup, and that means we need to start planning from now till March when we play Rwanda, away from home. But all right, let's keep that. We're going to short break now. When we come back, we still have club football, and let's take a review of what has happened in club football. This is Atlantic Television Network, and it is the last edition in the year 2024.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN. From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
All right, welcome back from that break. If you're just joining us, this is Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. Last edition of the show in the year 2024. All right, let's bring you club football news now. And yesterday we saw games in the English Premier League. And no doubt, Aston Villa were held at home by Brighton and Hove Albion. Ipswich getting the first win of the English Premier League campaign, and a lot of other results. Chelsea, losing that particular one, not a very good time for Chelsea. But guys, let's talk about what has happened so far. From when the season resumed, the main man, and up to this moment, a lot of people have been talking about the title race, which of course is a normal conversation in the English Premier League every season. But let's take a look at the effort of Liverpool and how far they have fared. A lot of people are still looking at them as not, yes, they are good title contenders, but how far can they go in 2025 in winning this particular one?
They have already gone far, if you ask me.
You think so?
Obviously. Okay. Obviously. They are about, I think, 7 points ahead with the game in hand. And at the moment, they've got squad depth. They're playing consistently well. The players are up and doing. The players are even competing for space. But those ones who are competing are good enough to replace them. They have few injury worries. They have few players who really go out for injuries. Actually, it shows that all things are well for them till the end of the season. Sometimes you look at them and you feel, okay, I think they can go through this season without, falling and losing games the way Manchester City and the likes of Manchester United are doing. At the moment, Alan Slot is very careful with the way he uses his players, the way he rotates them, the way he plays them to ensure that he sustain them in order for them not to get injuries. I mean, looking at the way Liverpool are going at the moment, I think they're good to go. The league is theirs, if you ask me.
There's Solus. And joining us now in the studio in the second part of the show is Emmanuel Michael. Kingsley Emmanuel is in the studio, and Kingsley, good to have you. Good to also know that today is the last day in the month of in the month of December 2024. First off, how has it been? Your take on the year, because before you came in, I did ask him how far have we fared in sports in Nigeria, and he was able to express himself. So, do you think we have? At what ratio will you keep us in terms of our activities in sports in Nigeria?
For me, I think we've not really done well in 2024 when it has to do with sports in the country. Apart from the fact that earlier in the year, the Super Eagles of Nigeria went to the final for the African Cup of Nations, but couldn't win that one. And apart from that, I don't think we've really done much. And I think the Olympic was the height of it when we didn't come back, with a medal. That was also an abysmal performance. We saw so many issues, administrative issue, our cyclists not having a bicycle, favor of failure issue, maladministration and all of that, And as well, River Supers in terms of basketball also helped, so what they did as well in the Basketball African League. They also came back as well and won the domestic league as well. Apart from that, I don't think we've really gotten a very, impressive performance when it has to do with sports. Although you talk about the Chan Eagles who just got qualified, of course, for the Chan Championship that will be coming up next year, I don't think we really achieved much when it has to do with sports. Yes, the Super Falcons of Nigeria finished the team as, I think, the best female, the national team, of course, in Africa. And then Ademola Lookman, of course, bagging the CAF, men's award as well. For the Super Eagles, I think that theirs was also abysmal. In fact, the last FIFA ranking for this year, they are 44th, at this point in time. That was very, very low. So for me, if you take a look at it, I don't think it's in the, in the space of, let's say, 1 to 10, I will give them 4.
Okay. All right, we'll keep that for other time. But let's talk about the English Premier League. Chris talked about the title in the hands of Liverpool and just to lose. Do you agree with that?
Definitely, I agree. It is Liverpool's title to lose at this point in time. when you take a look at the fact that, you know, the other teams are not in form. You talk about Chelsea. Yesterday, they lost to Ipswich Town, surprisingly.
But that's the beauty of the English Premier League.
2-0. And then Manchester City are nowhere to be found, even right now in the top 4. Arsenal, they're still struggling at this point in time. A surprising side for me is Nottingham Forest. They are currently, I think, second on the log. But you can't bank on Nottingham Forest to challenge Liverpool at this point in time. So it's going to be a difficult one at this point in time to stop Liverpool. And I think Slot has been able to, of course, build on what Jurgen Klopp actually left, you know, for him. It's just as if you inherited your father's property and you make good use of it.
Continued in that direction.
That's what he's doing. And kudos to Mohamed Salah, who has been firing, you know, at this point in time. And the man has been very, very fantastic. And I think for me, he's also a motivation behind the success Liverpool, of course, are getting, you know, at this point in time. For me, from the way they are playing, it's going to be very difficult for them to be stopped. A lot of persons are saying, oh, Manchester City will bounce back. City will not win the title this time. No matter what, no matter the history they've created before, it will be difficult. The best Manchester City can do this time is to finish top 4. I don't think they can possibly lay their hands on that title this season. It
will be very dramatic for City. You know, after losing and creating all the negative history in recent time, coming to win the title, that will be very, very dramatic.
The Premier League is always a dramatic league, but then this is, like you said, very dramatic, and I don't see that happening. Manchester City, yes, we've seen the brilliance of Pep Guardiola, but then again, they don't have the players to be able to do that. I think their players, first things first, they're aging. The quality is not there as much as it used to be back in the day. The likes of Kevin De Bruyne, who you can bank on in his excellence and creating assists and scores, giving goals. It is not firing from all cylinders anymore as well as he used to do all the seasons. Erling Haaland, yes, scoring game in, game out, but then again, it's not enough, you know, to really push this City side to victory. It has always been a challenge for them at the beginning of the season. And of course, they've had the injury issue of Rodri that has really affected their season all through. I think that's a really big slap on them because they're really lacking in that defensive midfield. And talking about Manchester City.
Cousin, let's also take a look at Aston Villa. Yesterday we saw them, you know, they did all they could, but they have not been soaring. This is the same thing, doing so well in the Champions League. We saw how good they were last season. But if you take a look at the way Unai Emery has been managing that side, it looks like as though something is just lacking, and I'm just wondering what is lacking in that side, because ordinarily the game against Brighton and Hove Albion at home are games that you get to see them win. And the last 5 matches, they've not been very invincible. So what is missing within that side, Kingsley?
I think for me, at this point in time, when you take a look at Aston Villa, I think Unai Emery, from what we've seen so far, the progress we've seen from Aston Villa is as a result of the tactical prowess of Unai Emery. If you take a look at that Aston Villa team, though they have some, you know, big name players, but not really that big. We understand the likes of Oli Watkins, of course, who has also been performing very well. But you know, with you having few big players, you know, in your team, few players that can possibly change the game for you, somehow it becomes difficult. Sure. You know, we understand probably they might not really have that huge amount of money to go get probably a big player or probably a creative player. Maybe also they do not have that, you know, creative, you know, scouting team, just like we're saying for the likes of Liverpool, who do not really use a huge amount of money to buy players, but they get players and come make those players, you know, stars at the end of the day. So I think that's what Aston Villa they're lacking at this point in time. That player that can possibly, you know, change the game at any point in time, you know, for them. They're a very good side, and you must give kudos to Unai Emery for his tactical prowess so far. Since he came in, I think they've actually been firing. Last season, they finished top 4, qualified for the Champions League, and this season they're close to the top 4 as well, still fighting very hard in the Champions League. They've been very fantastic. So I think for me, Unai Emery should get to the market this January transfer window. The board should look forward to see how they can possibly give him that amount of money so that probably he can go out there, get those players that could possibly, you know, be game changers when it comes to situations like this, just like what we saw yesterday against Brighton.
And of course, no doubt, Spanish coaches are ruling England. And that generally it seems to be one of the best when it comes to coaching. When you compare and contrast number of coaches in Europe. But let's take a look at Mikel Arteta. I mean, the Arsenal side, basking the euphoria of what they did in the last 2 seasons against Manchester City, chasing them back to back. Even at some point, one would have expected them to get to win the league, but they bottled it all. But this season, at this point now, yes, it's not done and dusted. Do you think that they can click, to rejuvenate and re-enhance themselves for better outing as concerns the title chase?
I think the problem Arsenal had before they came into the season was not getting a marquee sign in the top front. In getting the major striker, that will help convert those chances and get those goals. They've been relying on Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus, who've been on and off, as well as Bukayo Saka. But then again, Bukayo Saka is injured at the moment, and it's going to be very tough for them. For them to really, start looking at the title race, I really think they need to see the markets this January, get a marquee signing up front, get a striker, a points man that can convert goals, that can give them at least 20 goals, 25 goals a season, and of course, they are good to go. The other part of the team is great. They have great defense, good goalkeeper. The midfield is top notch. Odegaard and the likes of Partey has been doing well in the middle of the pack. They've got squad depth, at the middle of the pack as well as from the wings. But then the attack has always been the problem. And it's funny that they haven't seen that all the time. And then they feel they had Gabriel Jesus, but you and I know the consistency of Gabriel Jesus and the fact that he can play for 5 games, do well, and the next 6 games is out injured. It has always been a problem for them. But then, if they can go into the market, get a player like Osimhen, get a player even Darwin Núñez from Liverpool, it can do well for them. Get players who can give them 20 goals, 30 goals a season, and hey, they'll be up for getting themselves a title. That has always been their problem. That has always been one major issue they've had: consistency up front, getting the player who can get them those goals, and so that they can fly and win trophies. I mean, if they don't do that, it may be difficult for them.
Lastly, Mike, Kinsley, what are your expectations now that the year ends today? Okay, so tomorrow we'll get to see a brand new year. Okay, but what do you think or anticipate could happen in the English Premier League?
Just like you mentioned earlier, the Premier League, of course, is a league filled with drama. Anything can happen at any point in time. So Manchester City at this point in time, they are not in the very best of form. Don't cut them off. Don't write them off, at this point in time. Arsenal playing as if probably they might not win the league after they've been fighting, for so many years. Don't write them off. Even Liverpool, they are finding at this point in time, anything can happen. They can still drop points. So we should all be expecting drama. At least we've got, I think half of the season at this point in time. So we should be expecting a lot of drama at this point in time, because the January transfer window is just here. Teams will be rejuvenating themselves, coming back strongly, especially Arsenal Football Club. They've been looking for this. This is Mikel Arteta. This is 5 years since he took over at the MFS as the manager of Arsenal, and they've been looking for the Premier League title. Yes, they've been playing beautiful football in the Champions League, in the Premier League, but that's not what Arsenal fans want. The last time they won the Premier League, that was in 2004. It's been a very, very long time now. So the fans are hungry. So I think this time they will probably want to make sure they get themselves back. I know injury has also been Arsenal's problem. If not, they would have been competing very well with Liverpool. Don't forget that was the time Martin Odegaard was injured, and that really hampered their midfield as well. Even the other guy, what was his name as well, at some point as well, was injured. Declan Rice was also injured. Even Bukayo Saka has been somewhere in and out as well. So injury has also been Arsenal's problem. At this point in time, I should be expecting Arsenal, of course, to be fighting for the title now that Manchester City are down at this point, because City has always been on their neck when it has to do with the title chase. So for me, Arsenal should be up there for Liverpool come the second half of the season.
Of course, we'll continue to review and preview activities of club in Europe, or clubs in Europe, from tomorrow. And it's been a wonderful time doing this with Chris, the member.